The crystal chandelier above caught my eye as I watched my wife Sarah laugh, that practiced corporate laugh I'd grown to recognize over the years. Her boss, Marcus Wellington, stood beside her at the podium, his hand possessively placed on her shoulder as he addressed the crowd of executives and managers packed into the hotel ballroom. "Ladies and gentlemen," Marcus began, his voice dripping with that particular brand of arrogance only a middle management climber could master. "I want to take a moment to recognize Sarah Mitchell. She's climbed from a junior analyst to senior vice president in just 5 years, and she did it despite—" He paused for effect, that smug smile spreading across his face. "Despite having a husband who's just a warehouse worker with no college education." The room fell silent for a heartbeat. Then came the polite chuckles, those uncomfortable laughs people make when someone crosses a line but they're not quite sure if they should acknowledge it. My grip tightened on my glass of champagne. What happened next made my blood run cold. Sarah, my wife of 7 years, the woman I'd supported through every late night, every doubt, every challenge, she smiled. Not a forced smile, not an embarrassed grimace, a genuine smile as she nodded slightly as if agreeing with his assessment. "Marcus is right," she said into the microphone, her voice steady and clear. "I've had to work twice as hard to prove myself, to show that I wasn't just settling in my personal life, that I had ambition, drive, a vision for my future beyond what was expected." I felt every eye in that room avoid looking at me. I was standing near the back, dressed in my best suit, the one Sarah had always complimented, the one she'd helped me pick out 3 years ago for her first major promotion. Now I wondered if she'd just been managing appearances even then. I stood up. The chair scraped against the floor, cutting through the murmur of the crowd. Marcus's eyes found mine, that condescending look people give to those they consider beneath them. "Oh, and there's the man of the hour. Don't worry, buddy, we all appreciate the support you give Sarah. Takes a secure man to let his wife be the breadwinner." More laughs. Sarah's face went pale, but not with embarrassment for me, with concern about the scene I might cause. I walked toward the front, my footsteps echoing in the suddenly quiet ballroom. When I reached the podium, I looked directly at Marcus Wellington, then at my wife. "That's funny, Marcus," I said, my voice calm but carrying through the room. "That's really funny, Marcus, because I own the company you work for." "My name is Daniel Mitchell. I'm 34 years old, and for the past 7 years, I've been living what most people would call a double life. Not the exciting kind you see in movies, no secret agents or hidden families. Just a simple deception that started with good intentions and ended with me standing in a ballroom full of strangers watching my marriage implode in real time. I grew up in South Chicago, raised by a single mother who cleaned offices at night and took in sewing during the day. She died when I was 19, right before I was supposed to start at Northwestern University on a full scholarship. Instead, I dropped out to settle her medical debts and keep our small apartment. The scholarship didn't wait, and I didn't blame them. I started working at Henderson Logistics, a struggling warehouse distribution company on the South Side. I was a floor worker, loading trucks, managing inventory, doing whatever needed doing. The owner, Bill Henderson, was 67 and tired. His kids had moved to California and wanted nothing to do with the family business. After 3 years of working there, learning every inch of that operation, Bill made me an offer. "Danny," he'd said, sitting in his cluttered office that smelled of coffee and old paper, "I'm retiring. I can sell to one of the big corporations that's been sniffing around, let them strip this place for parts and lay off everyone. Or I can sell to you. You don't have the money, I know, but I've watched you. You're smart. You see the angles. I'll carry the note. You pay me over 15 years and this place is yours." I was 23 years old, and Bill Henderson handed me a company with 37 employees and annual revenue of about $4 million. If you're listening right now, help me prove something wrong. My mother said I wouldn't even reach 1,000 subscribers, but I believe stories like this deserve to be heard.
Help me show her that these stories matter. The thing about owning a warehouse logistics company is that nobody thinks you're impressive, even when that company grows, even when you're successful. You're not a tech entrepreneur or a finance wizard. You move boxes from one place to another. It's blue-collar work dressed up with spreadsheets and shipping manifests. When I met Sarah at a community mixer 6 months after buying the company, I told her I worked in logistics. It was true. I just didn't mention that I owned the company. Our first few dates, she asked about my work, and I told her about problems on the floor, difficult clients, shipment issues, all true, all things I dealt with daily. She seemed charmed by my work ethic and dedication despite limited opportunities.
I should have corrected her assumption. I know that now. But Sarah was getting her MBA, working as an analyst at Precision Global Solutions, a corporate consulting firm with offices downtown. She was polished, ambitious, connected to a world I'd never accessed. And somewhere in my mind, I wondered if she'd see me differently if she knew the truth, if she'd wonder whether I was good enough, educated enough, sophisticated enough for her trajectory. So I let her believe I was just another warehouse employee. When we got married, I kept my work life separate. I had my operations manager, Rita, handle most of the day-to-day client interactions. I dressed in work clothes, kept my office modest, and never corrected Sarah's friends when they made assumptions. The company grew. I'd taken Bill's $4 million operation and over 10 years built it into something else entirely. I specialized in just-in-time delivery for manufacturing clients, then expanded into temperature-controlled logistics for pharmaceutical companies. I bought 2 smaller competitors, consolidated operations, and invested in technology that put us ahead of the curve. By the time of Sarah's promotion party, Henderson Logistics, which I'd never renamed because Bill asked me not to, was pulling in $63 million in annual revenue. One of our biggest clients? Precision Global Solutions, the company where Sarah worked, the company where Marcus Wellington was her boss. I'd been personally managing the Precision account for 4 years, but I'd always done it through email and conference calls, never in person. Their procurement director, Linda Chen, handled our contract renewals. She knew me as Daniel Mitchell, owner of Henderson Logistics. But the corporate consulting side, Sarah's side, had no idea that their warehouse and logistics vendor was owned by the husband of their rising star. As I stood there in the ballroom watching recognition slowly dawn on Marcus Wellington's face, I felt a strange calm wash over me. You're joking," Marcus stammered. "Daniel Mitchell? You're D. Mitchell from Henderson Logistics?" "The very same," I said. "We've exchanged emails about shipping delays. You complained about our invoice formatting about 6 months ago. I personally reformatted them for you." Sarah's face had gone from pale to bright red. "Danny, what am I doing?" I turned to her. "I'm clarifying some misconceptions. You see, everyone, my wife has spent the last few years building her career. She's brilliant at what she does. I mean that sincerely. Strategic thinking, client management, process optimization, she's exceptional." I looked back at Marcus. What she apparently didn't think was exceptional was being married to someone she could introduce honestly. "Marcus, you mentioned I have no college education. That's true. I started working instead. Started at the bottom of Henderson Logistics, learned every role, every process. When the owner retired, he sold me the company. I was 23. The room was dead silent now. I could see phones being subtly raised, people recording, probably already texting their contacts about the drama unfolding. Over the past 11 years, I've grown that company by about 1,500%. We employ 273 people. We have contracts with 47 major corporations, including, I paused, letting it sink in, Precision Global Solutions. We've been your primary logistics vendor for 4 years. In fact, we just negotiated a contract renewal 2 months ago. 3-year term,
$12 million. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel so you don't miss how this story ends. You won't believe what happens next. Marcus looked like he'd swallowed a live fish. Several executives in the crowd were whispering urgently to each other. I saw Precision's CFO, Richard Huang, who I'd met twice in contract negotiations, staring at me with wide eyes. "Danny," Sarah said, her voice shaking, "can we please talk about this privately?" "Why?" I asked, genuinely curious. "We're among your colleagues, the people you've spent years impressing, the people you apparently needed to distance yourself from to impress. I think they should know the truth." "You never," she started. "You never what? You never told them I was just a warehouse worker? Because Marcus seemed pretty confident in that description, and you agreed with him, just now, in front of everyone." "I didn't want to seem like I was bragging," she whispered, "or like I got special treatment because of connections." "Connections?" The laugh that came out of me was sharp. "Sarah, I never once interfered with your career. I never mentioned to anyone at Precision that I was your wife. I kept our business relationship completely separate. You got where you are on your own merit. But you didn't trust that, did you? You thought being married to me was a liability." Marcus, recovering some of his composure, tried to salvage the situation. "Mr. Mitchell, I apologize for any misunderstanding. I was simply—" "You were simply being a condescending jerk," I interrupted. "But here's the thing, Marcus. I'm not upset with you. You didn't know any better. You made assumptions based on limited information. That's forgivable." I turned back to Sarah. "What's not forgivable is letting your husband be humiliated publicly and agreeing with the humiliation. What's not forgivable is 7 years of being ashamed of who I am."
"I was never ashamed," she protested, but her voice lacked conviction. "Really? Because I've listened to you on phone calls with your colleagues. I've heard you deflect questions about me, change the subject when anyone asked what I did. At last year's company picnic, I heard you tell someone I worked in distribution, and then immediately start talking about something else." Tears were streaming down her face now. Part of me wanted to comfort her. 7 years of instinct don't disappear in an instant. But a larger part of me was tired. Tired of feeling like I wasn't enough. Tired of succeeding by every reasonable measure, but still being treated like I was something to hide. Richard Huang approached cautiously. "Mr. Mitchell, I had no idea you were Sarah's husband. We should talk." "We should," I agreed, "because I need to inform you that Henderson Logistics will not be renewing our contract with Precision Global Solutions. Consider this 60 days' notice, as stipulated in our agreement." The gasp that went through the room was audible. Sarah's eyes went wide. "Danny, you can't!" "I absolutely can. It's my company, and I'm not going to continue doing business with an organization that employs people who think it's acceptable to publicly demean service providers based on education level or job title. Marcus here has made it clear how he views people like me. I don't need that kind of client." Marcus went pale. "Mr. Mitchell, please, I spoke without thinking. I had no idea." "That's the problem, isn't it? You had no idea who I was, so you felt comfortable being disrespectful. What does that say about how you treat people you think are beneath you?" Richard stepped forward. "Mr. Mitchell, let's not be hasty. Marcus made a mistake, a serious mistake, but ending a $12 million contract that employs dozens of people on both sides?" "I'm aware of the implications," I said. "I'm also aware that Henderson Logistics has been fielding offers from your competitors. Benson Consulting reached out last month. They're willing to pay 20% more for exclusive logistics support. I turned them down because of loyalty to existing contracts. I'm reconsidering that decision." You know what's crazy? Sometimes the people closest to us hurt us the most. Hit that subscribe button if you think honesty matters in relationships. Sarah found her voice. "Danny, please, can we just go home and talk about this? You're making a scene." "I'm making a scene?" I couldn't help the bitter laugh. Sarah, your boss just announced to a room full of people that you succeeded despite being married to an uneducated warehouse worker, and you agreed. That was the scene. I'm just adding context. I didn't agree. I was trying to deflect, to move past it. By saying you had to work twice as hard to prove you weren't settling, that you had ambition beyond what was expected. Sarah, I was standing right there. I heard exactly what you said. She had no response to that. The tears were coming harder now, and I felt the first crack in my anger. This was still Sarah, still the woman I'd built a life with, still the person I'd thought I'd grow old with. But she'd let me be humiliated. More than that, she'd been complicit in it. Marcus, desperate now, tried another approach. Mr. Mitchell, I'll resign, effective immediately. Please don't penalize the entire company. Your resignation is between you and your management, I said, but it doesn't change my decision. I'm done with Precision. Richard's phone was buzzing constantly. He glanced at it and winced. I need to brief our CEO. Mr. Mitchell, could you give us 72 hours to respond, please? I considered it. The professional part of my brain knew that burning bridges completely was rarely smart business, but the human part of me, the part that had just watched his wife choose corporate image over basic loyalty, that part wanted to watch it all burn. Fine, I said, finally. 72 hours. But I'm not interested in meetings with Marcus. If Precision wants to salvage this, I'll deal with your CEO directly. I looked at Sarah one last time. I'm going home. I assume you'll want to stay and do damage control with your colleagues. When you get back, we need to have a real conversation about what happens next. Then I walked out of that ballroom, leaving behind the whispers, the shocked faces, and the woman I thought I knew. The drive home was a blur. I kept replaying the moment in my head. Sarah's nod, her agreement, that casual dismissal of our partnership. How long had she felt that way? Had it always been there, lurking beneath the surface? Or had it grown gradually as her career advanced and mine stayed invisible to her world? Rita, my operations manager, started ringing before I even made it to the highway. Boss, I don't know what happened, but Richard Huang from Precision just called me directly. He's freaking out about a contract cancellation. What's going on? I gave her the abbreviated version. Rita, who'd been with me since the Bill Henderson days, let out a low whistle. So you finally told Sarah the truth? You knew she didn't know? Danny, I've answered your phone calls when she's been in the car. I've heard you talk differently when she's around. I'm not blind. I just figured you had your reasons. My reasons were stupid, I said. I don't know what I thought. That she'd judge me? That she wouldn't respect me if she knew the truth? Turns out she didn't respect me anyway. What do you want me to do about Precision? Rita asked, always practical. Nothing for now. I gave them 72 hours to respond, but start reaching out to Benson Consulting. Let them know we might be interested in discussing that exclusive contract after all. You got it. And Danny, I'm sorry about Sarah. You deserve better than that. After I hung up, I sat in my driveway for a long time, staring at our house. We'd bought it 3 years ago, a modest colonial in a decent neighborhood. I'd paid cash from my business savings, but we'd told everyone we had a mortgage. Another small deception to maintain the image Sarah wanted. Inside, the house felt different, empty, even though all our things were there. I changed out of my suit, poured myself a whiskey, and waited. Sarah came home 2 hours later. I heard her car in the driveway, heard the front door open and close. She found me in the living room, still in the dark. "We need to talk," she said. "I agree." She turned on a lamp and sat down across from me. Her makeup was smudged from crying, her hair disheveled. She looked small in a way I'd never seen before. "Why didn't you tell me?" she asked. "About the company, about everything." "Why didn't you defend me?" I countered. "Tonight, when Marcus said those things, why didn't you stand up and tell him he was wrong?" "I was in shock. I didn't know what to say." "You found words pretty quickly. You talked about working twice as hard, about proving you had ambition. You made it sound like being married to me was an obstacle you overcame. That's not—" She stopped, closed her eyes. I don't know how to explain it. In that world, Danny, credentials matter. Where you went to school, who you know, what position you hold. I've spent years fighting to be taken seriously as a woman in consulting. Adding married to a warehouse worker to that equation just made everything harder. If this story is hitting different, tap that subscribe button. You won't regret it. So, you lied, I said flatly. I omitted details. There's a difference. Not really. Not when it matters. Sarah, I own a multi-million-dollar company. I employ hundreds of people. I've built something real from nothing, and you treated me like something to be ashamed of. I never meant it that way. Then how did you mean it? Because from where I'm sitting, you've spent 7 years hiding me, not introducing me to colleagues, keeping me separate from your professional life, and I let you do it because I was hiding too. I should have told you the truth from the start, but I didn't because I was afraid you'd see me differently if you knew I was successful. Isn't that messed up? I was afraid my wife would treat me differently if she knew I was more than what she assumed. Sarah was crying again. What do we do now? I don't know, I admitted, but I can't keep living like this. I can't be with someone who's ashamed of me. I'm not ashamed. Then prove it. Tomorrow, I want you to send an email to everyone at that party. Tell them the truth about who I am, what I do. Own it. Show me that you're willing to be honest about our marriage. She hesitated, just for a second, but I saw it. That hesitation, I spoke, that tells me everything I need to know. Danny, it's not that simple. Your career will be fine, better than fine. You're good at what you do, but if you can't be honest about who you're married to, then maybe you shouldn't be married to me at all. The silence that followed was deafening. The next 72 hours were a whirlwind. Sarah stayed with her sister. Precision's CEO, Jennifer Walsh, called me directly to apologize and beg for a meeting. The story had leaked, of course it had, with that many people in the room, and local business media picked it up. Warehouse owner reveals identity after wife's boss makes disparaging remarks, read one headline. My phone wouldn't stop ringing. Clients calling to confirm we were stable, competitors trying to poach talent, and Benson Consulting, very interested in that exclusive contract after all. Jennifer Walsh and I met at a neutral location, a coffee shop downtown. She was a sharp woman in her 50s, known for turning around struggling divisions. She didn't waste time with prelatories. Mr. Mitchell, I want to be direct. Marcus Wellington has been terminated, not because you demanded it, but because his behavior violated our code of conduct. We don't publicly demean partners or employees based on education or background. Appreciate it, I said. Beyond that, I want to understand what it would take to keep Henderson Logistics as a partner. You've been reliable, professional, and innovative. Losing you would hurt us operationally and financially. It would hurt you more than that, I said, allowing myself a small smile. Your Q4 projections depend on the distribution efficiency we provide. Without us, you'll miss targets. She didn't flinch. You're right. So, tell me what you need. Honestly, I need to know that my wife can work at your company without feeling like she has to hide who she's married to. I need to know that the culture values substance over credentials. Jennifer nodded slowly. Your wife is excellent at her job. Her promotion was earned, but I'll be honest with you, consulting culture can be elitist. We're working to change that, but it's a process. Then make it part of your process, publicly. Issue a company-wide memo about respect and inclusion, not because of this incident, but because it's the right thing to do. Show me that Precision is a place where someone's value isn't determined by their degree or their title. And if we do that, you'll consider renewing? I'll consider it, but there's one more condition. My relationship with my wife, whatever that ends up being, stays separate from this business decision. If we divorce, if we reconcile, it doesn't impact our professional arrangement. I won't let personal drama affect my employees or my clients. Fair enough. We shook hands. Jennifer Walsh kept her word. Within 48 hours, Precision issued a company-wide initiative on inclusive culture and respect. They brought in consultants, ironically, to train management on unconscious bias, and they offered Henderson Logistics a new contract with better terms. I signed it. Business is business. And Rita was right. Burning bridges completely serves no one. But Sarah, that was different. She came back on the 4th day. I was in the home office reviewing contracts when I heard her key in the door. "Danny," she called out. "In here." She appeared in the doorway, looking exhausted. I sent the email to everyone from the party, everyone in my department. I told them the truth about who you are, what you've built. I told them I should have been proud to say it all along. I looked at her carefully. "Why did you send it?" "Because you asked me to." "That's not good enough. Why did you really send it?" She sank into the chair across from my desk. "Because I've spent the last 4 days thinking about what I almost lost. Not just you, though that would be devastating, but myself, who I became in pursuit of that career. I let ambition turn into insecurity. I let insecurity turn into shame about things I had no reason to be ashamed of." "That's a start," I said. "I know it's not enough. I know I hurt you in a way that might be unforgivable. But Danny, I love you. I've always loved you. I just lost sight of what mattered." I leaned back in my chair. "Do you know what the worst part was? Not the humiliation, not even your boss's comments. It was watching you agree with him. It was realizing that somewhere along the way, you'd bought into the idea that I wasn't enough. You were always enough. You were more than enough. I just couldn't see it because I was so worried about how other people saw me." "Are you worried about that now, after sending the email?" She smiled weakly. Terrified, but also relieved. I didn't realize how exhausting it was maintaining that image, keeping parts of my life separate. I feel like I can breathe for the first time in years. "I kept the Precision contract. New terms, better money. Your CEO is impressive. She handled the situation well. But I need you to understand something. I'm done hiding. I'm done being invisible. If we're going to make this work, you need to be okay with people knowing exactly who I am. Warehouse owner, no college degree, self-made businessman. All of it." "I am okay with it. More than okay. Danny, I'm proud of you. I should have said that every day for the past 7 years. You built something incredible from nothing. You're smarter and more capable than half the people with fancy degrees I work with. I was an idiot for not seeing it." I wanted to believe her. Part of me did believe her. But trust once broken doesn't heal overnight. "I think we need counseling. Real professional help to work through this. Because I love you too, Sarah. But I don't trust you right now. And I don't trust myself to know if I'm staying because I love you or because I'm afraid of being alone." She nodded, tears streaming down her face. "Whatever it takes. I'll do whatever it takes." We started therapy the following week. It wasn't easy. Nothing about rebuilding trust ever is. Sarah had to confront her own insecurities, the ways she'd let corporate culture shape her values. I had to confront my own role in the deception, the ways I'd enabled her by hiding my success. But slowly, things shifted. 6 months later, I attended Precision's annual gala, not as Sarah's secret warehouse worker husband, but as Daniel Mitchell, CEO of Henderson Logistics, their partner and vendor. I wore the same suit I'd worn to that promotion party, but this time I walked in with my head high. Marcus Wellington wasn't there, of course. Last I heard, he'd taken a position with a smaller firm in another state. Some bridges, once burned, stay burned. But Richard Yang was there, and Jennifer Walsh, and dozens of others who'd witnessed that moment in the ballroom. The difference was palpable. People approached me with respect, asked intelligent questions about logistics and supply chain management, treated me like the professional I was.
And Sarah stood beside me, introducing me proudly to everyone we met. "This is my husband, Danny. He owns Henderson Logistics. We've been their primary vendor for years. Best decision Precision ever made." Each introduction felt like a small act of redemption. Later that night, as we drove home, Sarah reached over and took my hand. "Thank you," she said quietly. "For what?" "For not giving up on us. For giving me a chance to be better." I squeezed her hand. "We're not perfect. We've still got work to do. But we're doing it together this time. No more secrets, no more hiding." "No more hiding," she agreed. The revenge I got wasn't the dramatic, explosive kind you see in movies. It was quieter, more profound. It was reclaiming my identity. It was watching people who dismissed me realize their mistake. It was seeing my wife learn to value authenticity over image. But the sweetest revenge? That came a year later, when Henderson Logistics was featured in a national business magazine. From warehouse floor to executive suite, how Daniel Mitchell built a logistics empire. The article detailed my journey, my philosophy, my success. Sarah framed it and hung it in our home office, and every time I see it, I'm reminded that the best revenge isn't hurting those who hurt you. It's succeeding so completely that their opinion becomes irrelevant. I'm Daniel Mitchell. I'm 35 years old. I own a company that does $80 million in annual revenue. I employ over 300 people, and I don't have a college degree. I'm also proud to say I'm married to Sarah Mitchell, Senior Vice President at Precision Global Solutions. She's brilliant, driven, and she's learned. We've both learned that true success isn't about hiding who you are. It's about being exactly who you are, unapologetically, and building a life you don't have to lie about. And that's the story of how a promotion party became the moment everything changed. Not because I humiliated anyone, not because I destroyed careers or ended marriages, but because I finally stood up and told the truth. Sometimes that's the most powerful revenge of all. If this story resonated with you, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. I want to know if you're tuning in from the Philippines at 2 a.m., or maybe you're in Canada enjoying your morning coffee, or perhaps you're right here in the U.S. grinding through your lunch break. And a special shout out to my New York viewers. You know exactly what corporate culture Daniel was dealing with. The reason I ask is simple. Stories like this prove that no matter where we are in the world, whether you're in Manila, Toronto, Los Angeles, or Manhattan, we all face the same struggles with respect, identity, and standing up for ourselves. Your comments create a community where we realize we're not alone in these experiences. So tell me, where are you watching from? Let's build this community together. And if this story taught you something about self-worth and honesty, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next one.